Blinded by beauty, Obasi ignored every warning and married the enchanting Nkem. But beneath her charm lies ruin. His fortune vanished, his heart broke, and she abandoned him for another. Lost and humbled, he sought redemption among spirits, learning that true worth lies not in beauty, but wisdom. Before we dive into this interesting mind-blowing story, if this is your first time, please click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification for more amazing stories. Now back to the story. In the heart of the great Ojua kingdom, where the rivers sang to the wind and the baobab trees stood as ancient sentinels, there lived a young hunter named Obasi. He was strong as the lion, swift as the gazelle, and wise in the ways of the land. Yet, for all his virtues, he had one flaw: he was blinded by beauty. One evening, as the golden sun melted into the horizon, Obasi ventured deep into the forest, tracking an elusive antelope. Instead, he stumbled upon a woman so stunning that his heart nearly leaped from his chest. Her skin was as radiant as the moonlit river, her eyes shimmered like the stars, and her voice was like the whisper of the wind through the reeds. She was Nkem, the daughter of the old widow Ojugo, but everyone in the village feared her. "Do not marry that woman," warned the elders. "Her beauty is a trap, her heart is colder than the mountain's breath." Even his own mother pleaded with him. "Son, a woman's beauty is like the surface of a river come above, but who knows what lies beneath?" But Obasi, drunk on desire, dismissed their warnings. "A man who refuses a gift from the gods is a fool." And so, against all counsel, he wedded Nkem in a grand celebration that filled the village with song and dance. But the spirits in the wind whispered a different song, one of doom. As the villagers danced, an old seer, hidden in the shadows, muttered into his kola-nut-stained fingers, "A hunter who traps a viper for its scales shall know only venom." Yet, the drums drowned his voice, and Obasi's fate was sealed. On the night of their wedding, as Obasi lay beside his wife, he felt the warmth of her skin against his. But as sleep crept upon him, he had a strange vision: a river filled with black water, whispering voices calling his name. He woke up in a sweat, but Nkem, her face serene as the moon, merely smiled and placed a cool hand on his forehead. "Sleep, my love," she whispered. And so he did, unknowingly drifting into a nightmare that would stretch beyond his dreams. The moon had not waxed and waned thrice before the storm clouds began to gather over Obasi's life. Nkem, once sweet as honey, turned as bitter as the neem leaf. She scorned his mother, spoke with venomous words, and treated the servants as if they were dust beneath her feet. She refused to cook, laughed at his hard-earned money, and mocked his humility. "A man like you should be lavished in riches, not chasing game like a hungry dog," she sneered. But Obasi loved her too much to see the truth. One evening, an old wanderer, cloaked in the dust of many travels, stopped by their hut. "Son, I see dark clouds over your home. The river whispers secrets. Would you listen?" Obasi, weary yet stubborn, waved him away. "My home is fine, old man. Worry about your own troubles." The wanderer sighed and left, but not before whispering to the wind, "The blind man walking towards a pit will not hear the warnings of the birds." As days turned to weeks, Obasi noticed changes he could not ignore. His hunting traps lay untouched, his arrows missed their marks, and the jungle, once his ally, became a stranger. His fortune, once abundant, seemed to vanish like mist before the sun. The villagers whispered, their once respectful nods turning into pitying glances. Meanwhile, Nkem's greed grew like a wildfire. She demanded luxuries beyond his means and sneered at his struggles. "Maybe if you were a real man, you wouldn't be crawling in the dirt," she spat one night. Rumors spread through the village like harmattan dust. The great hunter had fallen. His mother, once proud, now walked with her head low. The elders shook their heads. The spirits whispered louder. One fateful evening, Obasi returned home to find Nkem gone. The villagers murmured that she had run away with a wealthy merchant, a man who could drown her in gold and silk. All she left behind was a single mocking note: a man who has nothing is nothing. Obasi collapsed in despair, the weight of his choices pressing upon him like a fallen tree. The once great hunter, now reduced to a shadow of himself, could only stare at the empty space where his wife had once lain. His mother, watching from a distance, wept, not just for her son's pain, but for the stubbornness that had led him there. Shunned by his people, mocked by fate, Obasi wandered into the depths of the forbidden forest, seeking answers, seeking redemption. The spirits of the land, the keepers of forgotten truths, watched him with ancient eyes. One night, beneath the sacred baobab, an old spirit appeared. It was Agbola, the wise one who spoke in riddles. You sought beauty and found a curse. Will you now seek wisdom? With tears in his eyes, Obasi fell to his knees. Teach me, great one. I have been blind. Agbola nodded, and with a wave of his spectral hand, the forest came alive. Shadows moved, whispering stories of old. He saw the truth: Nkem was never truly human. She was a spirit of vanity, a creature cursed to roam the earth, feeding on the foolishness of men who valued beauty over virtue. Your lesson has been learned, Obasi, Agbola said. Now go. Build yourself anew, but never forget, true wealth is not found in the eyes, but in the soul. Years passed. Obasi, once broken, became a legend of wisdom. He returned to Ojowa, not as the man who had fallen, but as the man who had risen. He spoke to young men, warning them of the dangers of shallow desires. He taught them the way of true strength, not of the body, but of the heart and mind. And when Nkem, now aged and abandoned by the merchant, crawled back to the village seeking his mercy, Obasi looked at her, not with hatred, not with longing, but with the knowing gaze of a man who had conquered himself. The river forgives, but it never forgets, he said. And with that, he turned and walked away, his soul lighter than the wind. Moral of the story: desire without wisdom leads to ruin. True beauty is found not in the skin, but in the spirit. And above all, he who ignores the wisdom of the elders walks willingly into the arms of misfortune. Thus ends the tale of Obasi, a tale that still dances on the tongues of the griots, carried by the wind, never forgotten. Thank you for staying till the end of this story. If you enjoyed the story, please show your support, like, comment and subscribe if you haven't. Bye, see you in our next story.